Right, so hello everyone, my name is Vinayak and I'm currently working as a software engineer at Aineron. Recently I happened to visit one of the JavaScript tech meetup, and there we discussed about a lot of interesting and amazing JavaScript concepts, and the speakers were amazing. They discussed and they actually provided a lot of insights into how we can organize code and do like amazing things with JavaScript. Now there was one thing that we actually touched upon, that was event loop, and there seems to be some confusion around it. So that's why I wanted to make this video. So in this video we will talk about event loop, web APIs, we will talk about micro task queues, macro task queues, and how event loop fits into that picture. So we'll discuss everything in detail with a lot of diagrams. So yeah, let's jump right into it. So here is the question. I want you to actually guess what will be printed first, and if you guess that correctly, which means that you know how everything works, like event loop, call stack, microtask queues and microtask queues, you have understanding of that. If you struggle anywhere, please do watch this video. I will explain how exactly these things will actually work together. We will have call stack and everything explained with the use of diagram. So yeah, give it a try to guess it first. Like, do not run it immediately. Try to think what will happen when you use set timeout and everything, and try to guess what will be printed out, and then you run. If it matches with your guess with your answer, which means you have the understanding. If it doesn't, not to worry, proceed ahead with this video. I will explain everything. So let's begin. So I'll use some drawing. I have already drawn like call stack, web APIs, event loop, microtask queue. So these are the 5 things that we need to know in order to answer that correctly. So as you know, call stack, what happens whenever you execute a function? If you call a function, it gets pushed into the call stack. It will run run the statement, it will actually create an execution context within which it will have the variables that it needs to execute that particular task. So and once it gets finished, it will be popped out. So that's the call stack. Now we have web APIs, which is nothing but simply a wrapper function. You can think of it as a wrapper which browser provides you to kind of interact with different environments. For example, if you want to interact with DOM, which is nothing but a C++ list which contains your dev and everything with all the data, it gives you document, and you can, using that document dot query, you can query div, you can query input, everything. So that is nothing but a web API. Now there are other web APIs, which is like set timeout, set interval, that gives you the access to timer that is implemented in the browser. You have fetch, which gives you access to the networking side of the browser. So these are nothing but some sort of tools which browser provides you to kind of work with network, timer and everything. So that's web APIs. What is event loop? It is continuous, it is a continuous loop that checks whether call stack is empty or not. If it is empty, then it will check the microtask queue or microtask queue. If there is something in the microtask queue or microtask queue, it will push it into the call stack. If a function gets pushed into the call stack, JavaScript will execute that. So that is the job of the event loop. Now, what is macrotask queue and microtask queue, and why do we have 2 different queues? Well, microtask queue here, that deals with all the this set timeout, set timeout, fetch and set interval, and all the like web APIs, like so all the callbacks that you provide to set timeout, that will be first pushed into the web API, and then web API will push it to microtask queue. Now, which task will be pushed into the microtask queue? Well, everything that is a promise. So if there is a promise, then it will be pushed into the microtask queue. You have mutation observer callbacks that will also be pushed here. Async await, so async await, that will also be pushed into the microtask queue. All right. Okay, now with I'll just delete it because we might need some space. So here, okay, I'll just delete it. Okay, all right. Now I'll go back to the question. Now here we have the first statement which simply calls set timeout. So you have set timeout, and then you have these parentheses, right? So, which means it is an execution of this function, which means that set timeout will be pushed in here. Set timeout will be pushed into in this call stack. Now, since this is a web API, which means the callback of it will be pushed into this web API thing. All right. Now, web API will then pass it to the microtask queue. So it will just pass it over here. All right. So which means this execution is completed, which means this will be popped out. Now the second statement that we have is promise.resolve .then. Now here promise.resolve will be like pushed into the call stack. It will be finished, and the promise of it, which means this here, will be pushed into the microtask queue, because this will be immediately executed. The callback that we are providing, like the promise that we are providing, will be pushed into the microtask queue, right? So far I think there should not be any confusion, because as soon as you see these parentheses, which means execution of that particular function. So here the resolve, like promise is a class in which we have a resolve function, right? So promise.resolve is immediately executed, which means it gets pushed into the call stack and then popped out. When it gets executed, it actually creates a promise. Now, as we know that any promise will be pushed into the microtask queue, and that's what is, that's what actually is happening here. Now we will move. So this is done, this is also done. So these two lines are done. Now we have another promise.resolve. Similar thing will happen until here. Now, and then this will be pushed, which means this entire function will be pushed into this, right? So this simply means that no changes. Of course, we know that in here we have set timeout, but set timeout will not be immediately executed. The callback, earlier we had this only like console.log, like a function that consoles console log 2 as a function. Here we have a set timeout, which then receives a callback. So this function, both functions are same, the content of it, the body of it are different. So no changes, like it will be pushed into the microtask queue. We'll see what will happen when that function will be pushed into the call stack, right? So we'll see what will happen here. But for now, we are done with 3 statements. Now another one will be new promise. So this is like an instantiation of a promise. Now when this happens, this promise will be pushed, which means like this is a content, right? This is the callback, right? Now this promise is a function, so I'm just talking about this. It will be pushed into this call stack. So promise will be pushed when you pass, like you pass this function as an argument. This will be immediately executed, which means that this function that we have provided here, we actually resolved promise.resolve. We do promise.resolve, which returns a promise, and that promise is passed into micro task queue. But here we are giving this function as an argument to this promise. So you can think of it as like this is a class. Now in the constructor, this function will be passed. Now as soon as that happens, this will be immediately executed, which means right on top of it, this function will be executed. Okay, which means that we will have our first thing on the screen, which will be 4. When this is done, this will be popped out. This promise is also done. We have no further statements, so this will also be popped out. Now we are done with 4 statements, and we are done with 4 statements, but the interesting thing is we just have only one thing on the console right now, which is 4. What about these consoles? We'll see later. Now we again have set timeout, which is similar to this, which means set timeout will be pushed into the call stack, right? Set timeout will be pushed into the call stack. Since this is a web API, this function here, which is provided as a callback, will be pushed into this, and which then will be pushed right here, similar to the first statement. So nothing new. After we are done with it, we'll just pop it out. All right, so we're done with all these statements, right? Call stack is empty, nothing in the call stack. Now event loop will be active, like it is already like in continuous loop. Now it will perform some tasks. So first it will see whether we have anything in the either of these tasks. So we will see for micro task queue, we'll find that okay, we have something here. We'll push it to the call stack. Call stack will see that we have a function that wants us to log 2. So it will do that. It will obey. It is very obedient, and we will pop it out. Okay, so we're done with that. Now here there's a function. Now this entire function will be pushed, right? Now when this function will be executed, this set timeout here will be executed, which means that like right on top of it, we will have an execution of this set timeout, right? Set timeout. Now as we know, this set timeout is in web API, which means whatever we have provided as a callback will be pushed into will be like passed it to web APIs, right? So this function, this console log 3, right? Console log 3, where are you? Okay, yeah, this entire thing will be pushed into this web API. Now what web API will do is just pass it over here, right? Okay, no, I don't want to do this. I just want to increase the length. Okay, yeah. So in the micro task queue, now we have like 3 functions, right? Okay, now we are done with set timeout. It is popped out. It is also popped out. We are done. Okay, now call stack is again empty. We have nothing in the micro task queue. Now we will move to the macro task queue. Micro task queue will see console.log1. We'll print it here, right? It will be popped out again. Console.log5 will be pushed. then we will print 5, and then at last, this is also popped out, at last we will have console.log 3. Now we will print 3 and we are done. So 42153, this is what we are going to print. Alright, can we now check the answer? Okay, let's do that. Alright, so 42153. Alright, so it matches with our, sorry, I just spilled something. So yeah, it matches with our like whatever we discussed and whatever we expected the output to be. So it matches with that. So yeah, I think now you will have some sort of idea as in how all these things work together. Whenever we have web APIs callback, they will be moved into the microtask queue. If we have like promises, if we have like async await, if we have like mutation observer callbacks, they will be pushed into the microtask queue. There are something like some other things as well, but yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, that's all about it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new, and yeah, thank you very much.